I'd like to introduce our GSA 6th grade band with our prelude, Amazing Grace.
Thank you. GSA, 6th grade. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, elected officials, city manager, Reverend Shuhinian, and Midshipman Hunter Lutte. Let's begin today by recognizing all of those among us who have given themselves in service to the nation. Our veterans, our active duty service members, guardsmen, and reservists. Welcome to today's ceremony, and thank you for attending. I am honored to be speaking with you today on such an important occasion. We are here to honor our service members and to remember their sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend honor, duty, and country. We gather here on the 100th anniversary of the First World War, which ended November 11th, 1918. We're here to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today and those who are here only in spirit, a person can't help but feel awed by the enormity of what we encounter. We stand in the midst of patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. I'd like to ask our service members and veterans who are here today to please stand. We thank you for your service. Can we all please stand for the presentation of colors by Self High Junior ROTC School Color Guard.
Please, I pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Sophia, for leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. The Star Spangled Banner is our GSA 8th grade band and our chorus. Thank you. Please remain standing, please. I'd like to introduce our Reverend Gary Shahinian.
Let us join our hearts and minds together in the spirit of prayer. O Holy One, creator of the universe and maker of each one of us, this Veterans Day marks a special occasion. We commemorate the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, the war to end all wars. Unfortunately, that aspiration has not come to pass. The last 100 years has witnessed lengthier and more brutal wars. Yet with faith in your redeeming power, we look forward to the day when nations will beat their swords into plowshares and humans will learn the ways of war no more. We thank you, O God, for these veterans here and all veterans who have served our nation. We pay tribute to their sacrifice and courage. We thank you that they were willing to march into harm's way to fight for liberty and justice for all, that for them it was not just a bunch of words to be recited, but a creed upon which to act. We ask that you would continue to care for them and for all of our military personnel and their families. Oh God, we thank you for all the children here and in all schools throughout the country. We are inspired by their eagerness to learn and their natural curiosity and wonder. Each one is precious in your sight. May what they behold this day be meaningful to their lives, that they may remember the truth that freedom is not free and that justice does not happen automatically, but we must be ever vigilant to bring it about. By whatever name we call you, O Lord, we acknowledge you to be our God. I ask for your blessing now upon this program. Amen.
You may be seated at this time. I'd like to introduce our students of the Goddard Scholars Academy who will be reading. Our first poem is written by Riley Bray and read by Rhea Secor.
The thanks we can give. We look up to all the brave men and women who served our country with stars in our eyes and say thank you. Thank you for protecting our freedoms. Thank you for having the courage to fight for our nation. We attempt to show our gratitude and appreciation through smiles and nods. But how do you thank a veteran? How do we thank the people who protected our freedom? How do we, as a nation, show our overwhelming gratefulness for every single sacrifice made on the battlefield? Every ounce of blood, sweat, tears, agony, every cut and bruise and break. We try to heal all the wounds, inside and out, but nothing will ever be enough to truly thank a veteran. They sacrificed themselves for us and our nation. Trauma every day, every second of their time served helping us, preserving our rights and our freedoms, creating a better life for us, so we can live free every day. How could we ever successfully thank someone for that? How do we pay back all the time they missed, every milestone skipped? While we were at home, watching our children and family grow, creating memories with the people we love most, waking up in the morning to go earn an education or work our jobs. While we were advancing through life, they left everything. They left their families, wives, sons, daughters, sisters, brothers. They put their lives on hold so we didn't have to. Every day spent fighting and surviving instead of living and thriving. How do you thank someone for sacrificing everything? How do you thank a veteran? Even though we will never do enough, we can spend our lives trying. We can't ever get rid of every traumatic experience or memory, every trigger, every effect the battle had on them. Even though it's not nearly enough, we must thank them by not taking advantage of all the pain they endured, all the things they gave up so we could be free. We must go through life noticing and acknowledging every single freedom and right they secured for us. We must honor them and their legacies. So as a nation, we thank you all. We thank you for your sacrifice, honor, and courage. We want to know that the work you did has not gone unnoticed and has not been in vain. We thank you deeply for giving us the lives we have today.
Thank you, Rhea. I'd now like to introduce to you 8th grade Goddard Scholars Academy, Ricardo Mendez.
Every year, my elementary school principal would always give a small speech for the school to remind us about Veterans Day. He would say, remember to think about why you have a day off. Time and time again, as I got older, his words began to mean more and more to me. Many kids only appreciate Veterans Day because of time off from school. I felt alone since I was one of the few who had family members that served in the military. Due to a lack of knowledge or attention, most kids don't often think about veterans. They just see it as a day off from school. To me, it means so much more. Veterans Day was originally known as Armistice Day. After World War I, France had thought about holding some sort of event to honor their fallen soldiers and veterans. Political parties and veterans had started a 4-year-long debate to decide if France should create some sort of holiday to honor their fallen soldiers and veterans. They felt that there should be an event dedicated to those who served. After the debate ended, November 11th became a national holiday in 1922 known as Armistice Day. The United States also celebrated this, but they renamed it Veterans Day in 1954. Congress voted to change the name of the holiday to Veterans Day, and the president at the time, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, thought that people should realize that the United States had participated in 2 wars after the creation of Armistice Day. The main reason behind the change had to do with the fact that World War I was considered the war to end all wars. However, it did not end all wars, at least for the United States, so the people thought Veterans Day would be a more fitting name. Furthermore, I ask you to think about how much veterans risked during the time they served. Take the Vietnam War, for example. Many of the veterans of that war suffered from a form of PTSD known as Vietnam Syndrome, which shows that what they experienced took a large toll on their mental health. Veterans who had to experience something like this should be commemorated. Another example I can share has to do with my father, Staff Sergeant Juan Mendez, who served in the Army for 8 years. He moved up in rank over time, and he was also given various positions. He was deployed in Afghanistan as well as many other places. Personally, he believes that people should be more aware of the hardships that come with serving in the military. Veterans Day is meant to honor those who are still here for their acts of bravery and courage. Fighting for our country and risking your life is about as courageous as it gets. And yet, people don't think about what our veterans have done. This is why everyone should think about how many people were brave enough to serve and protect people they don't even know. The least we can do for them is to honor them every year, which is only what they deserve for their service and for everyone in this room and many, many more. I ask you all to remember why you have the day off. It will only benefit you and our veterans to honor the service of the courageous.
Thank you, Ricardo. I'd now like to introduce you to Dr. Susan O'Neill, who is Deputy Superintendent of the Worcester Public Schools.
Good morning. Today, on behalf of Superintendent Beninda, our thanks to the students and staff of Sullivan Middle School for again hosting the annual Veterans Day event in our community. It is an important day, and across the country this weekend, people will be gathering to recognize and honor veterans who have served and sacrificed for our country. And as we do, we remember the liberties that are afforded us because of their sacrifices. We are grateful and can show that in our daily work as we protect those freedoms that they have served and fought so hard for.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to today's guest speaker. Today we have Midshipman Third Class Hunter Lutte. He is presently at Worcester Polytechnical Institute, where he's majoring in electrical computer engineering. He's from Wingate, Pennsylvania, and I'd like to welcome him today to Sullivan Middle School.
Good morning. My name is Midshipman Third Class Hunter Lutte of the College of the Holy Cross Naval ROTC Battalion. I am honored to have been invited to speak at your annual Veterans Day celebration here at Sullivan Middle School. I want to thank Mrs. Quist, Mrs. O'Rourke, the South High Junior ROTC cadets, and all distinguished guests for their time and efforts in making this event happen. I also would like to thank Ricardo and Riley for their awesome speeches that preceded me. Oftentimes, the 100-year anniversary is deemed especially significant. While that is true, every Veterans Day is special. Most of us in some way have been affected by the military, with many of us having parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents who have served. I have 4 members of my family, all who have served in the Navy. Specifically, my Uncle Jay Lutte was the biggest influence in me joining the Navy, since I was very close with him as a kid. A specific Veterans Day tradition I had with him was visiting his grave every single year for Veterans Day. Upon his passing, he left me his old Blue Jackets manual, which, as the veterans know, is like it's your basic manual of what the stuff you is, as well as a bell he received from his first ship during World War II. I visited his grave every year until I left for college, but not a single Veterans Day goes by where I don't think about him and think about him fondly. To me back then, it was just paying respects to a family member that just meant a little extra because it was Veterans Day. But today, after learning more about the military, I see it as a way more to just honor his life, but to honor the sacrifices he made in his life in the name of service to our country. Regardless, I will still carry his memory with me, not just on Veterans Day, but every day as well. Likewise, I am sure some of you think of someone specific on Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a great time to take a minute and reflect on the blessings and opportunities we are fortunate to have in this country as a result of the sacrifices of our veterans. When you see a veteran, thank a veteran, not just today, but every day. Listen to their stories as well. These American heroes are some of the finest sources of knowledge around. That is one of the greatest ways to not just thank them, but to honor them as well. So, to all veterans around the country, especially those in the room with us today, we say thank you. Additionally, keep those presently serving today at the front of your mind. These amazing men and women are sacrificing so much for us, being thousands of miles away from home in dangerous environments so that we can have the freedoms we enjoy today. So to them, we say thank you as well. The Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps was founded in 1926 at 6 colleges across the country. This was designed to be an alternate commissioning source in addition to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island. In 1930, 126 midshipmen commissioned as new officers in the United States Navy. In 1932, the Marine Corps entered the Naval ROTC program. Today, there are 63 Naval ROTC programs serving 160 colleges across the United States. The College of the Holy Cross Naval ROTC unit was founded in 1941 with students from Holy Cross, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, Worcester State University, and Brown University currently being able to enroll. The College of the Holy Cross has seen 15 graduates become Marine Corps generals or Navy admirals. Additionally, 18 have received the Silver Star for extraordinary heroism in combat, 4 have received the Navy Cross, the second highest award for a member of the Naval Service, and 3 have been awarded the prestigious Medal of Honor for extraordinary heroism in combat. Upon graduating Sullivan Middle School, there will be an opportunity to join Air Force Junior ROTC at South High School. It is a great opportunity to get exposure to what it means to serve, as well as a way to explore a future potential career in the military as well. I want to part you with a quote from Elmer Davis, a reporter from World War II. He says, "This nation will remain the land of the free so long it is the home of the brave." This quote exemplifies that we are only so fortunate to have the freedoms we do today because of the continued sacrifices of our troops and veterans. From the shores of Normandy to the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of the Middle East, our soldiers have been there, protecting us from the faucets of evil that seek to alter our very way of life. Always remember that, and thank our veterans and troops every chance you get. It is the least we can do for their sacrifices. Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter, for that lovely speech. I hope you've inspired some of our Sullivan Middle School 8th graders to pursue ROTC at South next year. Now we're going to enjoy a musical selection by the Goddard Scholars Academy 7th grade band, America the Beautiful. Thank you, band and conductor Mello, for that lovely presentation. I'd like to introduce you right now to Holly Hodgkins on behalf of Congressman James McGovern.
Good morning, Sullivan Middle School. Congressman McGovern is sorry he could not make the event today, but it is my pleasure to be here with all of you on his behalf. It's always so clear how hard the faculty, the students, and staff work to make today possible. So thank you for all of your hard work, and it's very clear a lot of preparation goes into this event. As we prepare for this Veterans Day, it is our duty to honor each brave man and woman who has served our country. You will hear throughout the program that Veterans Day takes place on November 11th, and this is because on the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, World War I ended. This year is particularly special since it marks 100 years since the war ended. The United States makes an important commitment to never leave a soldier behind on the battlefield. Congressman McGovern and myself, we know how much it is important that we continue that commitment when soldiers return home. We must honor their service of veterans as a community, not only on holidays like November 11th, but each day. Be sure to thank a veteran for their service. They have sacrificed so much to protect our freedom. You can also thank veterans through your actions. Be kind to one another and respectful of adults and your teachers. When I was young, I never believed that my actions had an important effect on adults. But more recently, I have noticed how enlightening it is to see young people being kind to one another. And it does really give adults hope for the future. All I can tell you is that they do. When an adult or a veteran sees a young person do something kind, they remember why the safety and security of our country is so important. It reminds adults that people are good and kindness gives others hope for the future. Please be sure to thank a veteran as this day approaches. You must have a family, everyone here must have a family member, a friend, someone you know who is a veteran. I encourage you all, as I must remind myself, to live each day with gratitude and to be thankful of the freedoms veterans fought so tirelessly to protect.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgkins. It's my pleasure to introduce to you, on behalf of Mayor Petty, Councilor Mo Bergman.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be back here again on this very important occasion and a very important program, and I just want to congratulate Sullivan Middle School, all of you, the administration, teachers, staff, and everybody that makes this special event possible. You've been introduced to some veterans here this morning, and it is so important to recognize their service, to hear their stories, to get to know something about them through their family and friends. But what I want to talk about a little bit this morning is something else that's important, and that's trying to remember veterans that are no longer here. Veterans that don't have friends and families to tell their stories, and veterans that served so many years ago, well before any of us were ever born. I want to talk a little bit this morning, and I'll be brief, about one such person who's very relevant to the city we all live in and we care about, the city of Worcester. He was born in 1739. He was married in 1762. He had 6 children. He was a blacksmith, and he was a blacksmith for most of his life. He taught himself, he was self-educated, and he read a lot. He had one of the first libraries in the city of Worcester. He was known locally for being a great debater, and very, very early on, before the American Revolution, he told people he didn't feel the British were treating the colonists well. At the beginning of the American Revolution, between colonies in England, he was a member of a committee that sought to gain its freedom from Great Britain. He held meetings in his house. He also formed what was called the Sons of Liberty, which was a very influential and important organization of the colonists. He was a member of the Boston Whig Party, and he was also one of the leading advocates in the colonies against the British. When the Minutemen were formed in Worcester to possibly fight the British, he was chosen their commander unanimously. And when George Washington saw him and the men that he drilled, George Washington was quoted as saying, "This is discipline, indeed, this is discipline." He marched to the Battle of Concord and Lexington, was commissioned to be a major, and on with his military service. He sacrificed so much between 1775 and 1783 that when he came back to Worcester after the war ended, he was in poverty. He wound up in a debtor's prison where he died, and his children and his wife never gained the opportunity to spend quality time with him after the American Revolution. He's the only soldier in Worcester to ever serve all 8 years of the American Revolution. His name was Timothy Bigelow, and I'll tell you a few little things about Timothy Bigelow that you may not know. Montpelier, Vermont was named by him during one of his military expeditions. Bigelow Mountain in Maine was named for him. There are numerous monuments at Valley Forge where he fought that are named for him. And his grandson, because he was so poor his family couldn't do it himself, erected a monument on the City Common, behind City Hall, to his memory, and he is buried there as well. I mention these things because people's names are often forgotten, especially when they fought wars a long time ago. But it's important not to forget them, even though they're not here anymore and they have no family and friends to tell their stories. Because if they fade into our memory, the sacrifices that they made can't stay with us forever, and they should stay with us forever because they were sacrifices that are worthy of being recalled forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'd like to now introduce to you a member of the Worcester School Committee, John Monfredo.
First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the outstanding job done by our chorus, our band, as well as our student speakers today. Let's give them a nice round of applause. Now, I, along with my colleague on the stage, I just noticed, Brian O'Connell, and over the 24,000 children in the Worcester Public Schools would like to thank our veterans for their sacrifices and for the freedom that we as Americans sometimes take for granted. Veterans Day is a day to pause and reflect and remember those brave men and women who went to war to preserve our freedom. Again, I'd like to take a moment right now to give our veterans a nice, warm thank you. Unlike several holidays now celebrated on Mondays to create a long weekend, Veterans Day continues to be observed on November 11th. This preserves the historical significance of the date and helps us focus attention on the holiday's most important mission. That is to honor American veterans for their patriotism, their love of country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. I'd like to honor our veterans today with this poem that I'm sure many of you heard before, but it's still worth repeating. It's entitled, "The Veteran." It's the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us freedom of religion. It's the veteran, not the reporter, has given us freedom of the press. It's the veteran, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It's the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to assemble. It's the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It's the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It's the veteran who salutes the flag. God bless our veterans, each and every one of you. You're my heroes. We thank you. We thank you for your service to this great country of yours. God bless you.
It's our pleasure today to have our City Manager of Worcester here today, Mr. Edward Augustus.
Thank you. And first and foremost to our veterans, thank you for your service. I also want to thank the Sullivan Middle staff for this great program and this great tradition. I think all of us look forward to Memorial Day and Veterans Day to come here and recognize our veterans. It gives us and the many groups of students over the years who've had the opportunity to learn about the important sacrifices of our veterans and honor them. So thank you to Sullivan Middle. As has been mentioned, this year, 2018, marks the 100 years since the end of World War I, which took effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And today, I thought it would be fitting to give you a bit of a history lesson about one of those World War I veterans from Worcester, Corporal Homer J. Wheaton. Corporal Wheaton moved to Worcester in 1909 to take a job as a sports reporter for the Evening Gazette, back when Worcester had an evening newspaper. His buddies described him as fun-loving and life-loving fellow. He was born coincidentally on November 11th, same day as Veterans Day, in 1885. And if you go downtown in Worcester, you can find a granite stone marker in Wheaton Square at the intersection of Grove and Salisbury Street. And that square is named in honor of Corporal Wheaton. During World War I, on February 27, 1918, Corporal Wheaton and his fellow soldiers had taken shelter in a cave in France during heavy combat. They were passing out grenades to members of the 101st Infantry. And it was February, and there were some cold hands and some nervous hands in that cave. And one of the men dropped his grenade. And as soon as it hit the ground, the soldiers heard the familiar clicking sound. They knew what that meant. They had about 5 seconds before it exploded. Corporal Wheaton grabbed that grenade and looked for a place to throw it, but he was in a cave. So Homer J. Wheaton grabbed that grenade and selflessly clutched it to his stomach. Although he lost his life, the other 9 men in that cave survived, thanks to his quick thinking and proactive action. Corporal Wheaton was later awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his heroic actions, and he's buried in France, but remembered in Worcester. Worcester is a community that doesn't forget its veterans. We must always remember them. In the case of Homer Wheaton and the 237 other veterans, we remember many of them at veteran squares installed in the neighborhoods across our city. From the Civil War to present day, each one commemorates the life of a Worcester resident who gave their life for our country. We have so many of these squares here in Worcester that we probably don't always notice them. There might be one on your way to the bus stop, or near your house, or on the way to the grocery store. Too often, many of us have them blend into the background. With that in mind, I have some Veterans Day homework for all of you, and I know you love homework. Find one of these squares on your way and think about the person whose name is on that square. Learn their story. There's a Worcester police officer named Sean Lovely, who himself is a Persian Gulf veteran. And he's collected newspaper stories, official records, and photos from family members, all in an effort to tell the story of Worcester's veterans who are honored in those squares. And if you go to a site, WORC, VSveteranservice.org, you can find a list of every one of those squares in Worcester and all of the information that Officer Lovely has collected about those veterans. So you can pay them a great service this weekend by finding one of those squares and learning their story and sharing that story with your family and your friends. That's one way, I think, that we can honor our veterans who sacrifice so much. So on Veterans Day, remember the story I told you about Corporal Wheaton. Think about Corporal Wheaton and all the other veterans who served our country and helped protect our freedom. remember our veterans. Thank you.
Chorus now. Okay. You can introduce the chorus. Okay, sorry. We have our SMS chorus, Salute to the Armed Forces.
This song speaks of heroes who north and south their country come. From the days of our early American patriots to the current conflicts, these are the men and women who have served our country in military service. We want to recognize those of you who have served or are currently serving in the armed forces. Please allow us to honor you today, and we invite you to stand when we sing the theme song for your branch service.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Atta boys, give her the gun. Down we dive, spotted
Thank you very much, SMS Chorus. Thank you to all of our guest speakers for taking the time out of their day to celebrate with us. The service members we honor today come from all walks of life, but they share several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than one's self. Today, people throughout the country will gather together to remember, to honor, and to pay gratitude to those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns across the nation today and every day. It's not a lot, but it's one small way we can honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live in freedom. Your presence here today, and that of the people gathering across America, is a tribute to those who have lost troops and to their families. It is a way to say we remember and we honor them all. Thank you for attending today. God bless your families, God bless our troops, and God bless America. I would like us to all please stand for the benediction with Reverend Gary Shahinian.
Let us pray. O gracious and loving God, we thank you for the opportunity to participate in and witness this program. May we always be grateful to our veterans and those who serve in the military, defending our nation's high ideals of freedom and justice. May their service and sacrifice never be forgotten. May their dedication and honor be remembered from generation to generation. May each of us do our part as residents of this nation to uphold our civic duty and contribute to our society, that we may make our own little piece of the world a better place. Thank you for the dedication of these teachers, administrators, and city officials, and bless their work also. And thank you for these students and their inquisitive minds. May they take advantage of all the many opportunities available to them to edify themselves and enrich others. We ask now that we would depart with your blessing, as you are the God of each one of us. You are our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, and we ask that you would watch over us always and abide with us forevermore. Amen.
Please remain standing for taps and retiring of the colors.
Pose. Forward. March.
Thank you. Before we exit and end the program, I would like to say a very special thank you to Mr. Peter Mello for his outstanding job with our Goddard Scholars Academy students and the band. Thank you to our Goddard Scholars Band for an amazing job. And a special thank you to Miss Ann Joyner for her hard work and dedication to our Sullivan Middle School chorus. And thank you, Sullivan Middle School's chorus, for an outstanding job in your dedication.